The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says it is seeking private companies to operate and maintain 2 of its refineries. The NNPC Limited, in an invitation for expressions of interest posted on its X handle on Thursday, said it is seeking to engage reputable and credible operations and maintenance companies to operate and maintain the Warri Refining and Petrochemical Company and the Kaduna Refining and Petrochemical Company. Meanwhile, resident doctors are still on strike following the kidnap of their colleague, Dr. Ganiyat Mukbola. Thanks for joining us. This is Standpoint. I am Precious Amayo. Now, NNPC said the move to look for private investors is to ensure reliability and sustainability to meet the nation's fuel supply and energy security obligations. Now, it's explained that the operations and maintenance tender for the Warri Refining and Petrochemical Company and the Kaduna Refining and Petrochemical Company will be treated as a single tender through 3-stage tender process, leveraging all the possible opportunity costs associated with procurement of consumables, personnel, manpower management, utilization of computerized maintenance management software, warehousing management system. Now, NNPC Limited in its circular stipulates certain statutory requirement for companies seeking to bid. The 125,000 barrels per day capacity Warri Refinery and the 100,000 barrels per day capacity Kaduna Refinery are among Nigeria's 4 dysfunctional refineries that have produced no fuel for years, leaving the country to rely on imported petroleum products. Now let's bring in the Managing Director, Raven Energy, Daro Sho. He joins me via Zoom to discuss this latest move by the NNPC. Good to have you join us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
So I mean, that's your industry, and perhaps you can explain it better to us, because what we heard initially from the NNPC was that there was going to be rehabilitation of refineries. We've seen that, at least they still have begun with that of the of Port Harcourt, but now we're hearing that they're looking for investors. Help us make sense of it.
Thank you very much. The classical definition of madness is doing the same thing all over again and expecting a different outcome. If you are a student of fisheries, you discover that over the years, the refineries have already been moribund despite the trillion naira investment being made by NNPC to rehabilitate it. I think the NNPC came to the realization, or the government rather came to the realization that no, enough is enough. These facilities are better maintained, run, and managed by individuals who have the required competence and the commercial will to make them profitable. And I think that is what might have triggered the new development, looking for investor, a management organization who have the competence to manage the refinery effectively. As it is, the asset is not generating nor refining. So why don't you give it to people who have the capability to handle it? So I absolutely support the move by the NNPC.
So in your opinion, this is a good move?
It's a good move in the right direction, provided it is done very well. Sometimes a good intention, if not well executed, could bring negative results. But I can tell you, what the country needs is energy security, and as long as the refineries are refining and we are producing locally, that can be obtained or achieved rather. However, if you have all the refinery in this one, they are not producing, it's useless. So it's better they hand it over, and then to me it's a very good move.
So what a lot of people also want to understand is this an attempt at an outright privatization or partial privatization?
I think this is, I'm not going to speak for NNPC. I'm not an NNPC, but I can tell you free that this is a move towards privatization. Before, even if you're going to privatize an asset, it's better they're in good and working conditions. I think that is what they are doing. For what you take, the economic value of the refinery will always be doubted unless they are functioning. So if you have people who are managing it, if you are going to privatize it, you are going to get better value for it. So it's a good move. Net for me, it's a good move, and then I believe a functioning refinery is going to bring in more money at the point of sale. So it's better it's functioning than just living in moribund as it is at the moment.
Privatized, whether partially or outrightly in the country, and we'll see how it eventually goes. Even the services that you are meant to render becomes even worse sometimes when it's privatized. Some of them just even go moribund, if we want to talk about Nitel and coal. So how do you see this playing out in terms of how, when you look at it, vis-a-vis how privatization has gone in the
past? If you are privatizing an entity, one, you have to make sure that the objective is very right. It's not just giving up the management sometimes. It's not just giving up the ownership. Sometimes the management are not giving up. So I believe this time around, the refinery is a sensitive one, which is critical to the energy sustainability of the country. So I believe the first thing is to make sure that, look, whoever emerges as the preferred whatever operator, we have the competence, the resources, and the clear deliverables as to what has to be achieved. It's not just we are privatizing, and then there should be clear milestone and timeline assigned to them, so that within a short time, from being a moribund entity, it can begin to perform effectively. And I equally believe that refinery is a very sensitive one. Those who are coming in too, they are not just coming in. They probably have targets for them to achieve. So I believe if it's well executed, provided the preferred operator has the resources, I believe it's not going to go the way of the United. What I'm trying to say is, I don't believe this one is going to go the way of the United, because you can't afford to have petroleum scarcity, unlike United where you have options. It's only Dangote, and we are feeling the bite. So it is better that a well and a competent operator is selected, so that quickly they can set ball rolling and start refining.
The expectations, from private investors who, the NNPC say, look, this is the criteria for investing, but let's also look at, the NNPC itself. Have the NNPC created the right environment for investors when you look at how the issue of the Dangote refinery controversy?
Well, you need to know that Nigeria is a very peculiar country, and running a government establishment could be very daunting sometimes. If you are a stakeholder in the industry, you know that even though the NNPC, they are some of the best brains in the world. However, does the system in NNPC, are they being optimized? That is left for the populace to judge. However, I can tell you that with the PIB Act, that has to a large extent created a new platform that oil and gas is going to take going forward. Even if NNPC or the government is unwilling, the act itself, which is superior to whatever individual parastatal may be doing, has created a platform that other people can build on. What I'm saying in essence is this: the environment may not be perfect at the moment, but what we have on ground is sufficient for serious investors to come in once they have the government support. And what you need the most at this point is the government support. Is government ready to support private players coming into the sector? Absolutely, yes, from the body language. If you're able to get that, and then you have the resources, I think it's the best time to jump into it and make the best out of it. So NNPC, I believe, the environment is right. It may not be perfect. Of course, we are not living in a perfect world. So it's good enough for an investor or an operator to come in and manage the refinery at the moment.
Even with the challenge of crude supply, I mean, how should the NNPC deal with that? Because one of the issues that Dangote Refinery experienced was crude supply. And then when you have two more refineries added to that, let's even assume that you now also add the Port Harcourt refinery. How then do you deal with the issue of crude supply when right now it's just about 1.3 million barrels per day?
Thank you very much. The issue of stock feed, the crude supply to refineries is a big one. and Dangote, of course, you can see how Dangote is going about it. I believe by the time the refinery is transferred to private individuals and they are being managed as commercial entity, there will be a system, they will create a system within them that will enable them to be functioning. Because the truth is, if you have a functioning refinery without crude, I mean, you are not generating any revenue, and nobody's going to take up such an humongous investment without having that sorted out. But the best way to go about it is for the production to be rev up. At the moment, we all knew that the government can do much more. We can produce much more than what we are producing. So the starting point is to make sure that the production per day is increased, oil theft is reduced, wastage and leakages are curtailed, and the investments are done in the downstream sector. Without the investment, the crude will not just flow from anywhere. It has to be, there has to be massive flow of investment to that sector. All the marginal feed needs to be activated. There are people, there are individuals who have the capability and willingness to take up this marginal feed. Let them give them out. A 1,000 barrels here, a few hundred barrels there, has off, and that will move to the refinery. But of course, there have to be sustained and deliberate investment in the production end of the value chain, so that there will be enough crude to refine.
And interesting, because I was just going to get to the issue of in the oil theft and pipeline vandalism, because again it becomes an issue of the cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart, or better still, the chicken and the egg, which should come first. You know, should that be dealt with? That's the oil pipeline vandalism and oil theft before we say, okay, let's then get investors, or get investors while you're dealing with that issue. Because again, you have mentioned how that if you do not deal with that, you're also going to have issue with crude supply.
Thank you very much. I think the Nigerian situation is a bit different. We do not have the latitude to wait that long, you know. So we have to address it simultaneously. As to our repairing the refinery, investment has to be made in the production end. However, you need to know that it equally takes time. I mean, if you have all the money today, you can't start exploring and producing the same day. So this thing has to start now. It's like we need to start now and put a bit of urgency into it. So we cannot afford to wait and say, look, not until our production per day rev to 2 million liters or 3 million liters before we have to, the two has to work simultaneously. The refinery is functioning, the investments are driven, are channeled towards the production end. And then somewhere down the road, there will be a convergence. There will be enough crude to refine. Then other triggers and other variables like the pipeline vandalization will be addressed. And I think some sustainable effort is being made in this direction. A new pipeline maintenance and surveillance system is being deployed. Some operators are coming in. You see, most of these problems are not because the hitherto they've been handled by the government. If individual with the wherewithal are being employed or being engaged to handle some of these things, it will reduce drastically the extent of crude theft in Nigeria. However, you cannot eliminate crude theft. Even when you eliminate crude theft, you equally have to look at the pipeline, the age of the pipeline, the weather situation. A lot of things go into production. And sometimes people who are not in the system don't know what it takes. It takes a lot. If you see people who own production oil, they don't own production license and fee. They don't sleep because you keep on solving one problem or the other. However, what I'm saying in essence is, look, investment has to be made in the production of crude to rev up the volume per day. Investment equally has to be made in making sure that whatever is being produced is not being stolen. Investment equally has to be made in refinery so that at the end of the day, when you produce, it can be refined locally so that we won't be producing locally and refining abroad and paying premium, bring them back to Nigeria.
When you consider the level of loss that the refineries have cost, the NNPC is in trillions of naira. Would yes. any investor look at that kind of refinery and say, let me put my money there? Would investment be commensurate with the gains and profits in the long run? And I ask because, again, when you also see how IOCs they have a long-term plan to also begin to divest into cleaner energy. And so when you look at all of this, is it worth putting your money into, as an investor?
I can tell you for free that most of the people, you will see the number of expression of interest that will come in for this NNPC. You'll be amazed at the number of people who are ready and willing to come in. Is to give you, that's a signal that, look, there is still a lot of opportunity in the downstream sector of the Nigerian economy, and as well as the refining end of it. No investor is going to take up the issue of refinery if they are not commercially viable. Even your bank, nobody finance refinery from his own pocket. You have partners, you have your bank, you have your advisor. Everything will be adequately analyzed to make sure that, look, all the risk that could translate to loss are being addressed, and where they cannot totally be eliminated, there will be mitigant put in place. I can assure you that before anybody will go and submit bid, anybody that what is sought, we make sure that this project are either commercially viable, economically profitable, and then sustainable in the long run. So I believe it's viable, though it's really disheartening that the level of losses per day in Nigeria only is outrageous. Sometimes you lose as much as 90% of the production. I mean, that is not sustainable anywhere. But I believe by the time the individual and private investor comes in, we will discover that they're probably going to be a kind of combined effort to make sure that oil theft is being addressed at the long run, because now it is just government, and government is not profit making entity. So hopefully by the time individual comes, there will be tasks, there will be deliverables, there will be people in that system who will have a master plan on how to reduce oil theft, because if without crude, you will not be able to refine. So you have to make sure that you do everything possible to safeguard your raw material, which is the crude. So what I'm saying in essence is this: I strongly believe that those who are coming in and look at the commercial and viability of the project, how economically profitable are those projects before they will come in. So to me, and from an investor's point of view, I think running the refinery, provided you can mitigate all the risks, is still profitable in Nigeria. And just to divert a bit on the issue of the cleaner energy, of course, in Nigeria, the issue of clean energy is being addressed. But at the moment, let's even have energy sustainable energy. Before we started talking about the clean energy, of course, with time we get to that point. But for now, let's even have enough PMS in the country to power our motors to move about. Before we started looking at all those esoterics, which are a long time objective that can easily be achieved, provided the environment is right. That is my own take.
And I want to move into fuel scarcity, but before I get in there, because that's one of the reasons NYC had NNPC, right? I don't know why I'm mentioning NYC. NNPC had given for doing this is to ensure that the sustainability to meet the nation's fuel supply. I want to get to fuel scarcity in a moment, but let's talk about the Kaduna Refinery that is a bit far away from the south and how viable that is, because people have been saying, look, the distance from the crude oil source to that refinery itself, it might also be a challenge.
Well, I can tell you for free that some of these refineries were constructed decades ago, and there are equally the need to balance the geopolitical balance equation factor into them before they were being built. The refinery has been constructed. You can't just dismantle them or decommission them and move them down. What they need to do is there's going to be a new pipeline, a network of pipeline to address this issue. And if you are an energy person, you know that some of the production sites and the platform, it's not really a problem. It's all about you having the technology to drive those distance. Though it come at a cost, and that will equally be added to the cost of production. However, you know that some of these costs ultimately will equally be recovered, because the price of petrol at the south here is different from the price of petrol at the north. So at the end of the day, there's a way you can recover your cost over time, and that will not unnecessarily impair your profit. So the issue of the distance of the pipeline is not, to me, it's not as material as the effectiveness of the pipeline. All you need to do is to deploy the required technology to be able to help you. People work in Africa and do business in Asia. It's all about you, or it's all about you taking the right flight and do the right conditions before you get to your destination. So destination should not be an issue at the moment, though it will require additional costs to make sure that everything is balanced. So I believe the pipeline should not be the distance of the pipeline should not be an issue. It is better if this pipeline are situated close to either the floating barge or whatever are constructed close to the refinery. But unfortunately, the one in Kaduna is here to stay. So we are just have to find a way of running a pipeline that will be able to carry enough product to that production, and then from there we move forward.
And what about the issue of transparency? Because with this ensure some level of transparency, it's your industry, and you know how opaque the activities of that industry is. There is never an activity in that industry that people understand. It's always a blame game. It's the same thing we're seeing with electricity, the power sector as well, where there was privatization. Will this ensure some level of transparency? And how should this be done in a way that Nigerians can see clearly that, look, this is what is being done and this is how it is being done?
Thank you. Transparency can only run on framework. If I'm doing something and you don't have good knowledge of it, whatever I'm doing, except I explain to you, you may misconstrue it as not being transparent. What we are trying to do is there must be a template to how things are being run in the industry. And then, you see, to say that it's opaque, I think I disagree to an extent, because if you're an industry person, you know that every process in the oil and gas sector has a template. However, could the template be more efficient? Yes, absolutely, yes. And I equally believe that there's more awareness now as to how things are being done. The commercial orientation of NNPC and other similar agencies has been hyped. There are more qualified and more knowledgeable individuals and brains coming into that sector. So with times, we see a complete cultural change that will translate to more transparency. Of course, maybe NNPC could be made to be rendering reports more frequently, and then maybe subject some of the activities to public scrutiny. But again, how many people can actually analyze the operation of NNPC? Only a few people, and so many things in NNPC and the oil and gas sector are being political. But by and large, there could be improvement, and there should be improvement. There should be a framework that every operator in the industry should be accountable to, and there should be machinery to make sure that whatever is being done will be cross-checked by third party to a large extent. So with that, I believe there's going to be improvement as time goes on.
So again, I would agree to an extent on the transparency, not because for years it really has been opaque, but because NNPC, we're now seeing reports from the NNPC, and the latest one had talked about how there was a profit, increase of about, I think it was about 3.2 trillion naira for the NNPC, which everyone said was a good one.
Yes.
So in those, and that report was really, really, it was all encompassing, to even salaries and the charity work of the NNPC was stated, in that report. So again, maybe there's a bit of transparency, but let's get to the fuel scarcity, which NNPC said is one of the reasons they are doing, trying to get private investors into this, to buy the refineries, that they want to meet the nation's fuel supply. What exactly is going on? We thought that this was going to be a 1 week situation, a 2 week situation, but it's moving into its third or fourth week now. There's so much traffic in Lagos on the roads because of the queues at fuel stations. It's taking a long time to resolve, and people are wondering, what is going on?
Thank you very much. It is rather unfortunate that the first scarcity has extended beyond expectation. But again, we need to face the reality. First scarcity don't just develop overnight. There are variables and situations that trigger the first scarcity. We need to know that at the moment, only NNPC imports PMS into the country. Other products, the AGO, your jet fuel, your other hydrocarbons, they're all available in quantity in Nigeria. However, NNPC being the only importer of the product into the country, they came up with they met some challenges. Recently you saw that the global weather has been very bad, and then you're unable to load the mother vessels, the voyage, or a lot of things that are purely operational. That's what they say, purely operational. Like the vessel being unable to discharge, the weather is not good, then the road is not good. That is the reason they were giving. So we can only agree with them or not. But we equally believe that aside this variable solely on weather, there are other deeper issues that are not clear to everybody. Are the crude actually available? Does the NNPC have enough money to command the credits, stock credit internationally? Those are some of the issues. What about the place, the role the dollar is playing? If people perceive you that you don't have money, they're not going to give you credit. So those are some of the issues. You can't give what you don't have. NNPC does not have the crude. They don't have the products at a point. So it's difficult. And then, you know, I mean, in sympathy to some of my friends, and they are going through a lot. They are not really enjoying it. They are under a lot of pressure. But the reality is, as long as there is no fuel in the filling station, no matter what they do within their parastatal, it's not going to be recognized by the populace. So by and large, a lot of problems are in that sector, and until we start refining locally, we keep on having incidents of fuel scarcity here and there. And for us to eliminate it, we have to refine locally. But as at the moment, we can only say that the current scarcity is being driven by the weather situation, as explained by NNP. So we can only sympathize with them and pray for clement weather very soon. But if you notice, it is not that the stock at the terminals are bigger now. There are a lot of loadout just arrived. So with time, the scarcity will disappear over time, and hopefully there will be enough mitigants and solutions in place to prevent further scarcity in Nigeria. But it's rather unfortunate, and there's nothing we can do about it at the moment. We can only pray that it goes away very soon.
Nigerians are wondering how long this would take in terms of resolving the fuel scarcity crisis. We'll see how things play out. Thank you so much for your time. Managing Director, Raven Energy, Daro Sho. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. Have a good afternoon.
All right, let's take a break now. When we return, we will turn attention to insecurity and how that has been affecting not just doctors, but some other sectors in the country. Stay with us.
Voted as the best TV station of the year. TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen. Following all nationwide big and impactful stories. We tell the news from every perspective, covering every human angle. I am Veronica, bringing you the news